people here. Also on YouTube, I can see a couple of people have joined in.
Very nice.
So let me introduce the speaker to everyone. A lot of you must have seen the banner and must have checked Pooja's profile. So Pooja Kheterpal, she is a finance expert. She has over 20 years of experience in several leadership roles like corporate finance, taxation, treasury, accounts. Currently, she is guiding a lot of small and medium enterprises as a virtual CFO. And she has played an active role with a lot of startups. Over 12 years, last 12 years, she's worked with the startups as an angel investor, also helped them to make investment and funding decisions. So we have with us a lot of people, attendees who are co-founders, or they are currently in startup practice, or they are wanting to start a startup. So we would want all of you to keep posting your queries on the chat while we have Pooja who can start off the session. Pooja, over to you. We have 4 topics which we would be taking off and on breaks in between so that we can address the queries.
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much, World of Webinars, giving me this opportunity to talk to people. So I would want this to be a very interactive session. That's why let's put more and more time for Q&A so that it helps a lot of people out there. So I have been working with a lot of startup founders for last 11, 12 years now. And yeah, it's been both the sides of the table, being a startup consultant as well as an investor. So, so it's actually it's when you are sitting across the table. So it's one is the theory, right? That theoretically, what does investor want, what a startup founder should do. But it's only when you dirty your hands in the profession, only then you come to know that what's the exact picture. So yeah, let's start. Whatever you want to ask me about that.
So we'll first want to get the topic on funding cleared. So when should a startup start the funding process, and how, when we even think of the startup business, how to make the entire business appear fundable to the investors? So are there any things which the building team can think before starting the business? Also, what are the things which one should think about in terms of finance and funding in the beginning 6 months or 1 year of the journey?
Sure. See, first is the idea. Everybody knows about it. I believe most of the people who are founders on this today's chat show would have attended a lot of sessions and understand what what market viability means, what a customer survey means, and they know what is the product. Now, what is most important initially is the first set of funding comes from your friends and family. That's clear. That's for sure. No other investor would want to invest in your business unless you have your neck deep into the startup. In fact, instead of friends and family, I would better call it friends, families, and fools. So it's not only your friends and family. There are a lot of other people also who want to invest, and they just trust on you blindly, and they know that what is important, right? If it's a good, I'm sorry, if you can just spotlight my camera. I believe you're just seeing this your camera. Is that okay?
Yes.
Priyanka?
Yes, let me turn that on.
Yes, please. Just spotlight my video.
Sure. Can you try now? It'll work.
Yeah, it's working now. Is it okay?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, great. That's fine. So what I was saying is that most important thing is the first investors in your business are your friends, families, and people who trust you. right? So for any investor, it's important for the investor to see that how deep is your neck into the business. If you yourself haven't invested much into the business, then no investor will actually trust on you. No investor will invest his or her money with you. So if you are somebody who belongs to a middle class or upper middle class person, then your own lots of funds, more than you can afford, should be invested in the business. That's extremely important, right? Then what an investor looks for, apart from just these basic things, is, what is the market viability of the product? How big is the market? Is the market just a very niche market? Is it only restricted to a particular area, or is it scalable? Now, what is a scalable business? Now, almost all the businesses are scalable, apart from a very few that are non-scalable businesses. Something which requires your own personal talent in it. Like if you have a tuition center, now it is completely dependent on your own ability to teach children. If you're a dentist, it's a lot on your ability to treat patients, right? And you cannot have clones of yourself. So there's a limit in which you can scale that business. Then if a business is such that there are a lot of government regulations around it, right? So maybe we can have a quick survey on the chat itself quickly, that who all founders think that their business is a scalable business or a non-scalable business. So just write scalable or non-scalable in the chat, please. Let's make it a more interactive session. I mean, unless I have answers from you, I will not be able to do justice to this talk. Okay, I just have one or two answers.
In case people have just got the idea of the business, they can mention whether the idea is scalable or not, in case they don't have a current running business.
So once the idea is executed, once the idea is converted to a product or to a business, do you feel it will be a scalable business? Is it too much dependent on your own ability? So I'll give you an example here. If Baiju Ravindran, the founder of Baiju's, would have thought that he will only make all the videos and he will only take all the classes, he could never have become a unicorn. He could never be in the top 100, billionaires of India. So he did this because he knew that the videos can be made by other people, and that the tutors can be other people as well. So that becomes a scalable business. And something which is non-scalable, it's very difficult for any investor to come in and give investment on it, right? So it's important for a business to be a very scalable business. Then let's talk about a business plan. When you go to the investor with a business plan, anybody can make a great business plan, right? So there are consultants like me who can help you make a business plan. But there are investors who understand that, yes, this is just a business plan. What is more important than planning is what? Can I have answers from you? More important than planning is execution. Exactly. Thank you, Yunus. So what is more important is whether you will be able to execute that plan or not. Do you have perfect talent with you which will be able to execute that plan? So an execution is important. Then when you go with the business plan, will you just say that, maybe we'll execute this plan in the next 3 months if we get this much of amount? Or do you have data in place? Data is something which is very important for any business to be invested in. And what it's important for it is the founder to understand the data. He needs to know the numbers. So the investor would, while the investor is checking the credentials of any founder, it is important for the founder to be a multidimensional person, to not only be just a founder or an IT person who understands the product. It is also important for him to understand the numbers, no sales, no marketing, so understand all of this. So I'll just quickly put a question to the audience. Tell me, let us take a scenario where you go, you as a founder of a company, go to an investor, and you are an IT person, right? You have developed a product, you've understood the market, you understand that this product will actually be used by a lot of people. Now, however, you are a person who is an introvert. is not, you think that you will not be able to explain the product to your investor. Is it okay to take a sales and marketing person along with you to help the investor understand the product and the business? Do you think it's fine? You quickly have answers. Maybe you can say, a sales and marketing, say a S and M, and or say a founder. So, okay, you have a lot of yeses coming. Manish, Magesh, Shubham, Yunus, Keshav, Suyash. So World of Webinar says no. World of Webinar is Priyanka. Says no. Okay. Sarthak, yes. So Priyanka, sorry, quick question. Why do you think you should not do that?
So I and Sumit, we both are here. We are the co-founders of World of Webinar. And I think it's a common decision between both of us that we should not take the sales and marketing person, because we should understand everything. We should believe in that idea, why it will sell so much, or what is our pitch in terms of number of years or months in which we'll make revenue or break even. So we have to breathe in and out the business. So that's what I think Sumit also thinks.
So while you're talking, Priyanka, I can see the passion from your eyes, right? So if I were an investor, you being founders can understand the numbers in the best way. Those days are gone when there were founders who were introverts. All of us, whoever is an introvert, have this excuse that Mark Zuckerberg was also an introvert, Steve Jobs was introvert, Warren Buffett is introvert. So why can't we make a big business if we are an introvert? Those days are gone. That is history. You need to understand the numbers very well. You need to stand in front of a mirror and please practice what an elevator speech is. How would you want to present in front of the investor? Because you being a founder cannot only be a product or an IT person. You don't understand English. There are many cases in which people are not very comfortable with this English, which is fine. Talk in Hindi. Talk in Hindi, explain the product to the investor. I'm sure the investor won't be having a problem with your communication, because the investor would feel, if you are not able to sell your product, sell your business to the investor, how would you go out in the market and sell yourself? So it's very important for you to show the passion to the investor and be a part of all these investment pitches, right? So that's very important. And so you need to understand the numbers very well. Last but not the least thing that investor wants is there any traction in the business? Is there any movement that has already happened in the market? What is the stage of your business? Do you already have any investors? Do you have any investor? Do you already have any customers? Do you already have any customer testimonials in place? Please take them, put them on your business plan, and that's what investor looks for. Right? These are the things that I believe, being on as an investor, as a startup consultant, I believe these are the things that investor is looking for.
Okay. We would also want to know the critical stages of investment which are there in the startup journey, because a lot of time we think, when should we approach the investor? So if we know the stages, and then when is it highly likely that the investor will show interest and would not just listen to the idea and ghost us for several months. So
Okay.
Can you guide us through that?
Sure. Okay. So as I just said, the first stage is friends and family. So your own funds, your friends' funds, your family funds, and your, whatever you have collected for all the years, please invest that into your business. If you truly believe in that startup, if you truly believe in that business, and you feel that uh, this can be scaled. So that's the friends and family. Second level, I believe, is the seed funding. So that seed funding is that mostly comes from angel investors, people who believe in you. So these are groups of angel investors like the Indian Angel Network, that they believe in you. You need to pitch it in front of them, and that's the next level. Then you have venture capitalists. So there are a lot of groups, like I'm also a part of this venture capital group called Inflection Point Ventures. These people are usually professionals who see your pitch, they do a due diligence on your business and see what is the capability of the business, what is the capability of the founders. So then that is the venture capital level. Now, a venture capital are professionals. Now, when to go to the venture capitalist is when you understand the business very well, when you feel that now the business can be scaled. So though it is, you already have an initial set of customers who can vouch for you, you have an initial set of customers who can give testimonials to you, then this is the right time to go to the venture capitalist saying that this is the growth that we are looking for. You cannot go to a venture capitalist for working capital. You cannot go to them for that. Working capital has to be arranged initially within yourself only. You have to show your growth plans to the venture capital. So usually a venture capitalist or a venture capitalist firm will give anywhere between $1 million to about $6 to $7 million is the usual range. If you want that much of amount of money, then venture capitalists are the perfect match. Usually people, all the business owners, the startup founders follow this stage of friends and family, seed funding or angel investment, then they go to a venture capital. Now venture capital mandatorily have to be people who can help you professionally, who can help you get more business, who can help you, increase, improve your business, grow your business. You cannot have a lalaji sitting somewhere who can, invest about 10-15 crores on your business. He cannot be a venture capitalist. Maybe you can choose such kind of lalas, such kind of businessmen at the very initial stage, but not at the venture capital level, because there you're also looking for growth, professional growth. So please do not give away equity at this level without thinking, because then you're growing your business professionally. Now, once it has already grown in the local area, once you already have a pivot, once you already have a product, and you feel that you need to pivot your business now. Now, what is pivot? Most of us understand what is pivot. Pivot is that whether you're making a product in a particular manner and now you want to change it a little, or you want to start up a new product, or you want to capture a new kind of market, right? Mostly people go for a series A, which is the next level after venture capitalist. When you're, so suppose if I'm in Gurgaon and I've already captured Delhi NCR, Haryana, these kind of areas, and already have a product in place, it has already been selling in the market, it has already been, so there are customer testimonials, there's a lot of help that I'm getting, it's an online product, and even within India I have already introduced that. Now you want to go global, now the funds required are more, right? Then at this case, you're looking for a series A, series B, series C. So that's how it moves further. At usually at the venture capital level, you either give equity or you give preference shares, right? Or you give convertible notes. So what are convertible notes? Usually when you give convertible notes at the initial level, then these convertible notes will be converted into equity after some time. So these are the ways in which you can give off money. This is also the right time to get your business valued. You have to get a business valuation done at this time. In fact, at every level of investment, a business valuation has to be done. There are registered valuers who will do a business valuation for your business. Get it done. In fact, even if you're not going for investment, or it's not into immediate talks, there is no harm to get a investment valuation done, so that you exactly know that how much is the funds that you're looking for and how much equity or debt you'll have to give out in case you look for investment. So these are the various stages under which you can take investments.
Pooja, I have a question on that
Sure,
point.
sure, sure.
Thank you so much for detailing out the initial process. When anybody is starting off, right? I'll probably take our own example at World of Webinars. We saw some amazing early numbers. We still are growing in terms of our user base. The audience here would vouch for us in terms of the kind of content we are doing. The question is that we are not generating any revenue at this point in time. While we
Sure,
had
sure.
like 15,000 unique visitors on our platform already, we have we close to about 10,000 events listed. We've done like a good, so to say, a step jump in terms of our own performance, but we are not really putting in a revenue number at this point in time, because we feel that if at this point in time we need to scale up, we need to get more people in. It's a typical customer acquisition strategy. Once we have enough acquisitions and activations, then we probably pivot a few of them into the revenue generating funnel. Now, how
Sure.
do you get past that piece? Because almost everyone who's talking, all the seed investors, all the valuation consultants. Everyone is talking about this one particular piece. Like I kind of remember a lot of the unicorns also. Now unicorns, the early days for them, when they raised their series, series A, or they spent a lot of money in marketing, but dollars to acquire customers. And they did not have a significant churn in terms of revenue, while of course they've had the payment gateways and everything, and they saw early numbers in terms of how many people are coming. How does one, so the question here would be, how does a startup co-founder get passed by that particular question? That's one. And then otherwise, how do you go about, answer handling, and then how do you plan for the overall expansion of the fund and
Sure. So revenue is obviously one criteria which any investor would look into, that what is the revenue that the business is already making. But there are a lot of businesses who have a great future but will not have revenue in place. So the key feature there, the key KPI that they check is actually the spend they are making. How much are the number of followers they have? How much are the number of users they have? So like in case of world of webinar, how much is the audience that you have in each and every webinar? That is important. Then how many, what is the database that you have? And so what is the audience, right? So that is the most important, the key part. And how are you growing it? So that's where the money of the angel investors and venture capital come into picture, that how are you using up that money to get more and more users for your particular startup. And whenever we value it, whenever you value any business, it's usually a a future that's seen. So it's either done on a discounted cash flow method, in which all the next 4 5 years of revenue is calculated, and then a present value is calculated, and on the basis of that we see what a value of the business. So even though the revenue is not made in this particular year, what is the future that we see for the business? What is the future? So because if we assume it's a going concern, so we usually take a 20 years kind of a future criteria. So that's how you value the business, and that's how you have venture capitalists, that's how you have. But then it's very difficult to explain to a Sequoia or Excel partners that why we are not making revenue. So before you go for a series A, you must start making revenue, and preferably profitable if possible. If not, then it's always a number of users that is calculated, and also the revenue that's calculated for any kind of a venture capital or capitalist or a series A funding.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, Pooja, this is Manish here.
Sure. Hi, Manish.
Yeah. Just adding to what Mr. Sathik said, the point was, how do you counter this, the monthly cash burn or yearly cash burns, basically, adding to the revenue, even if the company is generating revenue in a startup stage, like for an FMCG-based company, where the complete domination is on the volumes, basically.
Okay.
And the volumes will not grow automatically from the first day.
Right.
It takes time for the market to accept the product and then take it forward. So it's a long gestation period with a FMCG startup, let's say 3 to 5 years, for example. So how do you counter this monthly cash burn in that scenario to a venture capitalist for a kind of a Series A funding? Because the investor would definitely look at a big picture, considering what is the product you are getting into, connect into, and also the market viability along with the government policies into practice. For example, a hygiene business or sanitary napkin business, it's not a seasonal business, it's a 12 months business, basically. But even if the growing volumes in the hygiene segment, the business might not be profitable, because it involves a lot of capex spending, it involves a lot of manpower costing, it involves a lot of marketing, a huge cost. So the cash burns would be very high in the initial stages. So would there be any kind of a you can say a possibility that the investor might overlook this, or he will definitely look into the spectrum?
Sure.
How do you take this?
Yeah. So there are two things. One is the burn rate. Burn rate is the amount of cash that you are spending every month, right? And every year, right? Over a period of time. That is the burn rate. Now, this burn rate can come from the money that you yourself have invested from your pocket, or it can be a angel investment fund money that has come in, or it can be a venture capitalist fund, right? That's a burn rate. Now, in case of an FMCG, Suppose I'm selling something, even if it is a hygiene product, something like a pea safe, for example, and the market value is 200 rupees, right? MRP is 200 rupees. It should be able to cover the variable cost at least.
Absolutely.
Right? It should be able to cover the variable cost. Now, whenever we see a profit there, the profitability, we always see EBITDA. EBITDA is before you deduct depreciation.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's earning before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization.
Correct.
That's right. So the investors check the EBITDA. Is the company EBITDA positive?
Correct.
So even if the cash flow is a problem, whereas the earnings before depreciation are positive, it is still a very much investable company. Right?
That's
very much. It can,
so that's what I'm coming from. So even if the EBITDA is negative, but the segment that you're operating has a huge potential.
Yes.
Like in India, if we talk of to give a small example of the sanitary pads, the sanitary pads penetration is approximately 18 to 20% in India. Okay, so there's a huge scope of you can say this market penetration going forward down then, let's say 3 to 5 or 10 years. But the company might not be a bit positive in the next, let's say in the coming 3 or 5 years, initial first phase. But the potential for the revenue generation is huge.
Yes.
Given the population and given the lack of awareness. So do you think the venture capitalists or the the investor would be very much interested?
Yes.
Ignoring the EBITDA?
Let me explain this again. So EBITDA before depreciation and amortization, even if it is a break even, even if it is a positive or a negative, what is most important is for the next year, how are you looking at the business?
Exactly.
So whenever you do a valuation of the business, we take the revenue and EBITDA and profit after tax for after the next 5 years, right? How do you see the revenue? And again, this revenue will be after you get the investment in place. Otherwise, how will the founder grow the business?
Absolutely.
Right.
So in the initial phase, the investor definitely will have he's always a stake here, this amount, I might get to lose the money. But in long term, this might get recovered, having a huge potential in the business.
That's right. So you answered your own question. That's right. So once the investment comes in, then the growth will take its own pattern and it should follow the same revenue predictability that the founder has given. And then finally, after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, it is supposed to be a positive business, a EBITDA positive and a profit after tax positive.
The whole thing burns down to the segment of the product or the category you're entering into, basically.
I agree. So then there are a lot of education technology businesses, online education businesses that have received a lot of investment during COVID period. Nobody thought that edutech can grow so well. It was supposed to grow in the next 5-10 years, but it would grow in the last 5 months. The way it has grown, nobody had predicted that.
Absolutely.
In fact, another category is online gaming. The way it has grown, nobody thought that online gaming would increase that much. So then, video conferencing and all, the way it has increased, it is because of COVID. But then what is important? What are the investors looking for now? That who all are able to pivot, who all are able to sail through this period, who all are able to be positive through this period. Are you able to give salaries to your employees? That's also important. Have you asked your employees to leave during this period? Did you have that much of cash that it could sail through last 6 months? Even if you did not have, if your financial planning was that bad in the business and you were not able to sail and you had employees to leave, and another 6 months, that's how you feel the business will be, then it is negative. Then it is very negative impact.
This see, the COVID situation is a temporary or exceptional case.
Yeah.
I don't think the investor would look at the COVID situation whether you are able to perform, let's say, online game. In the longer term, the investor would definitely look at a good potential product, basically, rather than getting into an online gaming. They will definitely venture into kind of a FMCG based product. I'll go to a healthcare sector rather than investing in online gaming. Online gaming is something like, to give an example, it's a exceptional out of the COVID situation arising. Had it not been there, then nobody would have thought that Ludo, Queen or something would evolve, and sitting at home, you'll spend 2 hours on that.
Right. So, I agree on that, Manish. In fact, just to add to your point, a lot of venture capitalists will also have a portfolio of companies in which they would want to invest or not invest. But let's not hijack the agenda right now. I'm sure.
Agree. I'm sorry to say, but I just went a bit. Yeah, sorry.
Sarthak, you have a question there. You raised your hand. If you're okay, we'll just hold on to the question
Sure.
towards the end, if that's fine.
No problem.
You just type it to me.
Definitely. Sure. Thank you.
Great.
We have nearly half of the webinar still left, so and less time. So we'll quickly jump to the next topic, which is
Apologies
about
for this. Just I
MSMEs.
got.
No
No worries,
worries.
Manish. This is very helpful. I want you to
Yes.
come back to this again.
Yeah,
We
Very
appreciate
helpful.
all the interaction, whatever is happening. We want
Yeah.
that to happen. So the question now, which was a part of the agenda, was to understand when should a startup register as an MSME, and if in case they have not registered so far, when is the good time to switch and what are the benefits?
Okay, sure. So as an MSME, the best time to start, best time to get registered as is at the very beginning. As soon as you registered yourself as a legal entity, whether it is a private limited company or a LLP, or even if you're an individual, the you can register as an MSME from the very first day itself, right? It's not at all difficult. It's about a 30 minutes form that you can go on the website. You can just Google it. You can just fill up that form, and it's I think it's about 2,000 rupees or something. That's a fee, and you get yourself registered as an MSME. Yes, there are a lot of benefits. There are pros as well as cons for getting registered as an MSME, like collateral free loans. Even before the Atmanirbhar scheme that had recently been given by the finance minister came, even before that, there were a lot of benefits that were there for MSMEs, which are still there, which you being a MSME can get those. So you have these collateral free loans from banks. Then it's very easy to get licenses. Even your patents, there is a 50% discount on that. And then you get your barcode registrations very easily. There are a lot of places, the income tax is lesser. So income tax percentage is about 15 to 17% if you're an MSME, right? Whereas the corporate tax is much higher. If you're an MSME, then your income tax is much lesser. You get concessions in electricity bills. So all these are the benefits that you're already getting. And over and above that, even under the Atmanirbhar scheme, if you already are MSME, then there are benefits that you're getting under that for a collateral loan. Then these are e-markets that you have if you're an MSME. So these are a lot of benefits that government is giving. In fact, there are a lot of tenders, so less than 200 crores of tenders, only Indian MSMEs can be a part of it. It's not open for the other countries businesses. So that's a great push that Indian government has been giving to MSMEs now. So it's great if you can just get sort of registered. Then one of the very important point that I feel that MSMEs benefit from is that if you're an MSME, then within 45 days you must get your payments. If you don't get your payments within 45 days, then you can charge interest, right? You just need to tell your client that we are a customer, so that the credit period is just 45 days, and within 45 days your payments must come in. Okay. Now, this is also a negative sometimes. For most of the companies that I've been working with all this while, sometimes the companies avoid working with MSMEs. This was about a few years back that companies used to avoid working with MSMEs because the MSMEs used to tell them, it's 45 days and why don't you give us your money? We are MSME and you're working with us, so we will charge you interest. So that was something that was hindering MSME business. But now I think that mindset has changed, and most of the clients, most of the customers are having MSMEs on their books. So that's fine. And best part is there are no returns or anything that MSME has to file. There is no additional formalities that MSME has to do. So it's always useful. You can, from the very first day, you can register yourself. It always helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think if anyone has any question on MSME, what we can do, we can park it for the end, because we have one very interesting piece coming up. I think we all are waiting for that piece where Pooja will run us through the basic financial model for a startup. So maybe we can cover that, and then in the meanwhile, people can post their questions in the chat and we can take them up in the end.
Sure. So let me just share this screen with you all. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this was the question that Priyanka had that many founders do not understand finance. Many founders do not understand what are the numbers and what is the profit loss account. So they are completely alien to it. So I thought then let me just take you through a very very simple profit and loss report so that understand the numbers a little and you know how to put down the numbers and any accountant of yours is not able to fool you. So usually in the revenue you have the sales revenue, right? If you just see the sales revenue, you deduct the sales returns, discounts, you get the net sales. Now, in case of a service business, like an educational edtech business, you will not have any sales returns and all. You deduct the cost of goods sold from that, right? So the direct expenses, when you talk about the raw material cost, like we had someone speaking about a FMCG kind of a business. So whatever is the material and the direct labor and overheads that are there for the business is deducted to get gross profit. That's how you get gross profit. That's the term of gross profit. Or now cost of goods sold. This is your direct expenses. Direct expenses are always a percentage of your sales. If your sales go up, your direct expenses will also increase. If your sales go down, your direct expenses will come down. It's around, depending on the industries, anywhere between 25 to 40% of your sales is usually your direct expenses, your cost of goods sold, your material, your overhead, right? If you have any direct expenses, then if it is a FMCG or product business and not a service business. If you have a service business, there will be no cost of goods sold. But yes, some company, if you are outsourcing a large chunk of your business, that also is very much a variable kind of an expense which comes here. Then you have the operating expenses. Now, operating expenses will either be fixed or they'll be a semi-variable. They're not exactly as variable as the cost of goods sold. So you have your personal cost, your salaries, your employee engagement, whatever you're spending on the talent that you have, that comes at the personal cost. You have the advertising expenses, selling, distribution, client entertainment expenses. So all the meetings that you have with the clients, all the coffees and all the drinks that you have with the clients come under client entertainment. So you club them together, right, under advertising, selling, distribution expenses. Again, this can be a very semi-variable kind of a cost. So initially when you're growing the business, your coffees and drinks will go up, and once you're a little stable, it may come down, right? Because then your new business expense becomes a little lesser. Then you have your repairs, maintenance, travel, rent, delivery expenses, utility, electricity, telephone, insurance, fuel, office supplies, and other expenses are your indirect expenses. So the direct expenses are the ones that are directly dependent on the sales. Indirect are not dependent on the sales, but they are more or less fixed. If your sales goes down in a particular month, you will not ask your employees to leave immediately. However, in cases, the one that we have faced in the last 4-5 months, because of COVID, there are companies who are asking their employees to also leave, right? Because their entire level of business has gone down. Once you deduct the indirect expenses, you get the term called EBITDA, earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. You deduct depreciation, amortization, interest from this, you get a profit before tax. You deduct income tax from it, you get the net profit after tax. Now, net profit after tax is a key term. However, usually the investors look for EBITDA. Investors look for EBITDA, investors look for your growth of the business, investors look for how your business looks like in the next 5 years and maybe in the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? So this is the basic profit and loss account that you need to understand before you take this to the investor. In fact, the investor will also look for a projection format, something like this that I've just shared. So you'll have your revenue streams, your expenses, your EBITDA and profit for the next 5 years. How do you see your profitability growing in the next 5 years? What are the expenses that you'll be making? What are the changes that you'll be making? How is your, in how many times or in what percentage is your revenue growing in the next 5 years? So this projection format has to be taken to the investor. These are the key financial formats that needs to be taken to the investor when you are going to him for investment. Then there are some key ratios that you need to understand. Like you have the working capital ratio, whether your current assets are sufficient enough to take care of your current liabilities. You have a gross profit ratio. We just check the gross profit part. So your gross profit as a percentage of sales is your gross profit ratio. So why I'm telling you these is that investors will throw questions on you like this. Tell me what is your gross profit ratio. Tell me what is your net profit ratio. You cannot look at your CFO or you cannot look at your accountant to answer that. You need to know what is the net profit ratio that you're looking for now and in the next 5 years. If the investment happens or not happens, what is the net profit that you're looking at, right? Then
So,
you have
Pooja, one question here.
sure.
We need to have these ratios also for the like next 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plan.
Yes. So if
numbers.
yes, of course. So you need to be very clear on the profitability of the next 5 years. Yeah, what is the net profit that you're looking at? Also important are the debtors turnover. So you made your sales, but you're not able to collect money. Sorry, not done. You need to collect money within 30 days, 60 days, whatever are the terms with the client, right? Whatever are the terms with the customer. So the debtors turnover ratio, which actually calculates, and how many days you're able to collect your outstandings, whether, you've just made sales, but the money is not coming in. No, that cannot be done. So it's important to have a very low debtor turnover ratio. Then for creditors, whether, so while you are making the payments, in how many days you're making the payments, that is important because only then your vendors will stick with you. Last and not the least is your return on investment, right? If the investment that, so one is the way that the investor says that this is the amount that I'll invest now and I want to exit in the next 3 years with this much of, at least this much of amount. So the bad difference is your return on investment. In accounting terms, the way you calculate is you take a profit after tax and divide it by investment. That is the profit that you're getting on the investment part. So these are the key ratios that has to be on your fingertips when you're taking your business plan, your pitch to the investor. So it's very important. So if you want, then these basic formats can be shared with you also. Priyanka can share you these basic formats. And I'm available whenever, if you want to send me an email, understand anything which is a part of this, please feel free to do that. So now I'm opening it to questions, whatever, let me know.
Thank you so much, Pooja, for that. Is really helpful. We have a question coming in from Sarthak, who's asking on how has investments for VCs changed from pre-COVID times, as in have they become more cautious? Or second question is, we are a bootstrap startup of 20 people, basically working in Asian and Indian region on omni-channel retail.
Let's take the first question first.
Sure. Okay.
So how has it changed during COVID?
Yeah.
So yes, it has changed a little during COVID, but it is not something which is not expected. Most of, in the sense that COVID was not expected, but such kind of things coming in the case of a business is always expected. There will be something like this, something like a problem where the business will not be able to make profits. This can happen even if there is a demonetization, right? There are many businesses who came down because of demonetization also. So usually the investors are ready for it. When they do the due diligence, then they see whether the business is ready for such risks or not. Right? Yes, it has gone down in the time of COVID. Yes, it is, the investments have gone down. New investments are not happening because mostly the venture capitalists or the angel investors are investing working capital in the current investee companies only. So they are not looking for new business to invest. Yes, it has come down as compared to the previous years, but I'm sure it will go up, especially in the sectors that have been positive during COVID, like the education technology sector, like the video conferencing sector. So during COVID, yes, but very soon it should be back on track.
Sure. The second question that he has to ask is, we are a bootstrap startup of 20 people working in Asian and Indian region in omni-channel retail. We are net profitable as well as for last 6 months, roughly about USD 50K.
Okay.
How would you suggest we look at reaching out to the right VCs? Are there any networks? And that's one thing which I wanted to ask
Sure.
you,
Sure.
because when you go on LinkedIn, you go on Twitter, there are a lot of people who are giving enough yarn,
Yeah,
but when you drop an email, it's a radio silence coming in from them. So what's the best way to mostly reach out to the VCs and also understanding the right kind of VCs?
Yeah. I agree. So there is no organization as such where you'll go and get a list of the VCs. You cannot. So you can download a list of companies. You can download a list of investors for Series A investing or Series B investing, but it's difficult to get a list of angel investors. Difficult to get a list of VCs. Yes, you will have to interact a lot. Be a part of lot of investment summits. So these kind of emails and these kind of notifications keep on coming on LinkedIn, where there are organizations like the World of Webinar, very similar to that, who say that there are summits happening. You need to attend a lot of events like these, and then just check that who are the investors on that. So all the VC firms are usually very open. You need to check that the people on the VC firm, on the list, or the members of the VC firm, are they professionals? What is You also have to be very selective. It's not, yes, the color of money is always green wherever it comes from, but then for your own business growth, only money will not help. You need to see how professional, how good those venture capitalist members are. So just need to keep your eyes and ears open. Otherwise, there is no way that you can get a list of all the VCs.
Sure,
Okay.
thanks. Megesh, I'll come to your question in a bit. Priya, go ahead.
We have few more questions which I'm getting as a message, which are: what are the variables we take into consideration while projecting the net profitability for the next 5 years?
Okay.
And how do we account for situations like COVID when many of the business models have become obsolete?
Sure.
So it's related to the last part of the presentation.
Sure. So over the next 5 years, I would say everything is variable. Earlier when I was a few years back, when I was actually learning accounts and finance, that time we used to have this clear in our mind that rent is a fixed expense. But what happened after COVID? There are so many startups who have actually left the places that they are working, and they've moved on to co-working centers. So even rent is not a fixed expense. So over the next 5 years, if you see, nothing is fixed, everything becomes variable or not variable. So it's always good to work in a subscription kind of a model, where you should not own a lot of assets. Try and have everything on rent, whether it is your servers, whether it is your laptops if possible, whether it is your the area that you're working. Try and have everything on subscription. That helps. Right. So over the next 5 years, everything will become variable. So accordingly, make up your business plan. And sorry, what's the second part of the question, Priya?
The first was the variables we should take into consideration while projecting the net
So again, each and every expense is a variable. Whether you talk about the salary expense, rent expense, everything becomes variable. But yes, if you take on a loan, right? So that becomes more or less a fixed expense unless you get it restructured because of COVID. So it becomes more or less fixed. Otherwise, rest everything becomes variable expense.
And the second part was: how do we account for situations like COVID when many of the business models have become obsolete? I guess this has been discussed off and on several times. In case you want to add some more points.
Sure. So if not COVID, sorry to break the news to you, but if not COVID, there'll be something else. Right? So your business has to be ready for such exigencies at all the times. Your product can go obsolete. There can be a competition in the market. What will you do in that case? Your business will come down. You need to be very, very aware about such things that can happen, to have backup plans in place. You need to, have a different kind of product and see how you can pivot at these times. But such kind of exigencies, such kind of urgencies will always keep on coming in your business. So please be ready for that, because that's how you are not an employee, and that's why you are a startup founder, because you're there to take risks, and risks will be there.
Right.
Yeah.
The next question, before moving to the next question, I'll share the feedback link also. We'll appreciate if people can share their feedback about the events and what they want us to do webinars on. And With this, I'll move to the next question. There are a couple of more questions, though we have exceeded the time. So people who are interested, they can still be there, ask their questions. So the next question is by Gagan. He says he's a first-time founder just out of college, and he's looking to get incubated and also for an angel investor. So he has no savings and he's asking for a suggestion.
Okay. Before an investor, do you think so? Investors is a very in term, right? It's a very trendy thing that has started coming up. Few years back, 10, 15, 20 years back, we never thought of investments. If you suppose one of your relatives opened up a shop, where will he get the investor? What is more important for that shopkeeper? Is it investment or is it customer? So we start already before we think about the customer, before we think about the market, before we think about the product niche, we think कि हमें investment मिलेगी कि नहीं मिलेगी, right? No, that is a secondary part. Please first make your business, try and make your business profitable. See how it can be made profitable. Only then go to your investor. Investor money is not easy money. Trust me, it's very difficult for you to convince the investor, right? Are you able to convince your relatives that they should invest money? If yes, only then think about it. Do you have customer testimonies in place? Otherwise, don't think about such a business. Don't even think about investment. First, your first investor in the business is your customer. If you have good sales, only then think about investment. Otherwise, no, not the place for you.
Then we have a question from Megesh, which says, how should I value determine on what equity should I be paying my employees in turns? And the second follow-up question is, based on your experience, when a new co-founder joins, is it safe to offer higher equity at vesting option?
Okay, I'll tell you. So usually all these valuations are done by registered valuers, right? So we have the CA Institute, the Cost Accountancy Institute, and the Cost and Management Accounting Institute, the CS Institute. So under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act of India, there are these registered valuers who undertake a course and they take an exam. After this, they are able to value a company. Now, every time that you're looking for any investment, you need to get the value done for. Accordingly, your shares will be given, whether it is preference shares or debentures. Accordingly, you can give these shares to any investor. Right? When you talk about vesting for a co-founder, ESOPs are not given to co-founders. ESOPs are always given only to employees. Even if you're getting a new founder, then if you have to either issue him sweat shares. What are sweat shares? Sweat equity is like pasina, right? The things that he's bringing, whether it is a professional channel that he's bringing in, or whether it is some kind of work that he's bringing in, some kind of brand value that he's bringing in, that is the sweat equity that you have to give. Again, at that time, the best way is to get a valuation done and know that at what level are you getting a co-founder in the company.
Okay. I hope the question is answered. There's a third question also as a follow-up. Are there any other legal documents required while writing off equity to employees apart from stamp paper and agreements? It's quite a specific question for now.
So, okay. So you do not give equity to employees like that. You always issue them ESOPs, right? So there is always a gestation period. There is always a vesting period. So you give them ESOP, and then these are options. These are options that these ESOPs will be converted into equity if you stay with the company for say 1, 2, 3 years. Once you stay with the company, that time these options are converted to equity, not before that. So yeah.
Now, the next question is by Sarthak, where he is asking how much granularity should be there in the financial projection, monthly, quarterly, or employee-wise. And while we are going for an investment meeting, initial pitch deck, can that be sent over mail or not?
So usually a NDA is signed, a non-disclosure agreement is signed between the investor and the investee company, because many times we feel that our idea can be stolen, right? Whether even if the investor does not invest, he can share the idea with some other investee company that he has. It's not preferable to send it via email. and it's a certain limit. If you have the basic formats in place for a pitch, that you should share the financial documents. However, you should further analyze them. So, if there's a question by the investor, and for instance, there's a burn rate that you do not have it in your papers, but you should know these terms by yourself. So please do at least a 70 to 80% of granularity on the papers, and you must know the balance 20 to 30%. You can take it in some other paper or on your phone, or you should just memorize the numbers, but you need to have 100% detail. Whatever is possible, please spend a lot of time before meeting an investor. Then you need to have complete details of your business end to end number. So Google it. What are the numbers that the investors look for in your particular kind of a business? And you don't need to present it in the pitch, but you need to know the numbers very well.
Pooja, I think I was not able to clearly, write the question, but the question was essentially, I was asking. So you showed in the last section, you showed
Yes.
year-wise projections.
Yes.
I was asking for the initial page deck that is sent over the mail, should I have more granularity there, sort of month-wise, quarter-wise numbers there? What is better, or will it be too much for them, for an investor? Okay,
Not
5
at all.
years.
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, for every investor would want to look into the next 5 years. Every angel investor, if you bring in, angel investor is usually there to stay for at least 3 to 5 years before you actually grow that much that you're looking for a Series A. And even beyond Series A, sometimes angel investors do stick in, right? So you need to, give a granularity till for the next 5 years. You can mostly divide it into, sales expenses and personal expenses and other expenses. But yes, you need to know that within that personal expenses, within the salary expenses, how much is the money that you'll give to your CEO? How much is the money that you give to your CFO?
Sure.
Right? So all that, or your design team, how much will go to your workers in the manufacturing, in your factory? So that breakup should be there with you, whether you share it on an email or not, but you need to understand that how much each department, something like a revenue per person, what are you looking for? So the revenue per person for the manufacturing team and revenue per person for the design team, how is that different? You need to understand all these numbers, and at least take another document along with you or have it on your phone so that you are able to answer that.
Sure.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
So we have nearly exceeded by 15 minutes. If Pooja, you are free for 2 more minutes, we'll take last 2 questions, and then in the meanwhile, people do share your feedback, and also we've shared our LinkedIn detail. Pooja, you can also share your LinkedIn channel in case they want to reach out to you later after the event, whenever you're free. Also,
on the chat.
After the event, we'll email the projection format in the profit and loss sheet.
Yes.
You can share Pooja's detail also with that email. The next question is for an investor, which is more important, gross margin or EBITDA? Since better gross margins will determine the cost coverage to generate positive EBITDA.
Yeah. So even if you have, as I said, the cost of goods sold or the direct expenses are anywhere between 25 to 40%. If you have a good gross profit ratio, whereas you end up giving a lot of salaries to your founders, what do you think? Will the investor be interested in that or not? Sometimes the investor also has a cap on salaries that you can give it to the people. Sometimes the investor also has a cap on the increment that you're giving to the team on the top, the management team on the top. Right? So it's very important for you to maintain a good EBITDA. So so the investor will ask why you unnecessarily spending a lot of money on advertisement when you don't have to, when there are other ways, when there are other methods. Do you need to give that much of salary? Do you need to have that much of entertainment expenses? Do you have to travel that much when Zoom is available? Right? So all these expenses, each and every expense is questioned, and it's not only the gross margins, it's also the EBITDA that's questioned. That has to be positive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was a question that came in the beginning when you were asking about the scalability. That was, would you consider cred as a scalable business because it serves only a niche of population with good financial behavior?
So what is that? Sorry, explain me again. What is cred?
would you consider Cred? So Cred is an app by which you can make your credit card payments online and get points which you redeem to buy other vouchers and coupons. That gained quite a popularity, I think 1.5 years back. And I'm not sure how it is doing now, but the app is still working. So it was targeting only those users who were using credit card and paying the bills on time. It used to capture your email and the bill detail and remind you to pay it on time, then give you points equivalent to the rupee value, but what you're paying, and you can use that point to attend some classes, or dine in, or get discounts in buying the products. So it was a very specific niche set of population they were targeting. So the question is, do you think it is scalable?
So no. So in that case, I would feel it is not scalable to a certain extent. So initially, when you talk about this niche kind of people, then can you move on to tier 2 cities in that case? So if initially they're looking only for tier 1 cities, if you can, yes, move on to tier 2, tier 3, then it is scalable. If not, then you're capturing so there are competitors who will come in very, very soon. You need to have a target customer which is more than your tier 1 or more than a niche customer. So it is not scalable. So it is a very much a non-scalable business, and it can grow only to a certain extent. Then you can, in such cases, you can probably look only at angel investors coming in. You cannot expect a VC or a Series A coming in such cases. Because what will you do with that money?
I think Pooja, so Cred is something else. So Cred was a venture by Kunal Shah. So already it's a 300 billion company. So it's scalable. The difference, I think, maybe that understanding difference was that even though if 2% people in India use credit cards, so 2% of 130 crores is a lot. Plus, it's geographically not defined in only India. So it's doing pretty well actually right now. I think they were in the Sonicon list of.
Sure. Great. So if it's capturing about 2% without any competition coming in picture, then definitely yes.
Okay. So I think we are nearly done with the question. We have a couple of other questions coming in, but I think we'll come to a halt now. Thank you very much, Pooja, for your time. We appreciate whatever you took us through the journey and the tools, hands-on knowledge which you gave us. I'm sure everybody must have enjoyed the session, and we'll look forward to similar kind of webinars for the audience. I've started getting feedback response as well, where people are asking for much more deep dive in one particular sector of the webinar. For people who attended or missed or want to re-see the event, there'll be YouTube live recording, which will share over our LinkedIn page. And also there'll be a blog about the webinar, which you can read through and understand. Within 24 hours, we'll also email you guys the tool sheet, as well as the details about Pooja and about World of Webinar for you to see future events with us. So thank you, everyone. We'll come to an end.
So I've also put my LinkedIn